What if I told you that medieval peasants often enjoyed cozier winters than we do today? How did these poor souls survive the freezing cold without cozy sweaters, hot water bottles, or even the luxury of closing our doors against the bitter wind? Well, it turns out they used science. Medieval peasants were clever engineers, ingenious chefs, and survival experts all rolled into one. So put on your warmest sweater and get ready to discover how these hardy people beat the winter blues. Medieval peasants lived in a time before modern technology. And yet they managed to keep their homes toasty warm without the aid of central heating. No, they didn't huddle around fireplaces. Instead, they embraced geothermal energy. The secret lay beneath their feet. Instead of building typical wooden shacks, they opted for homes that were partially buried in the ground. Don't worry, not like those terrifying underground lairs from horror movies. These homes were only dug down about 2 to 3 feet. But this simple trick made a world of difference. By harnessing the relatively constant temperature of the earth, these subterranean shelters remained roughly 10 warmer than homes built above ground. This is because the ground acts as a buffer, moderating the extreme temperatures of the winter months. During the day, when the sun shines, the ground absorbs heat and radiates it back into the home. At night, it helps insulate the house and prevents heat from escaping too quickly. These homes weren't just cozy, they were practical. Most of these buildings featured tiny windows and low ceilings, which maximized heat retention. Think of it like a little greenhouse. Sunlight entered through the windows and was trapped inside, keeping the rooms warm. As for the walls, they were made of a mixture of clay, straw, and manure, known as wattle and daub. Yes, it might sound odd, but this material was an excellent insulator. The mixture of clay and straw created a solid mass that trapped heat, while the manure added an extra layer of insulation. And don't worry, any unpleasant smell was long gone by the time the walls were dried and hardened. It's a testament to their resourcefulness and knowledge of their environment. By burying part of their homes underground, medieval peasants created cozy, energy-efficient abodes. The roofs of these homes were another stroke of genius. They were steep enough to shed snow, but not so steep that the protective thatch slid off. In fact, the design of the roof itself acted as an additional barrier against the cold. The angle of the roof allowed for snow to slide off easily, preventing heavy accumulations that could have led to structural issues or trapped cold air. Additionally, the slope of the roof created a space between the top of the wall and the thatch, forming what's known as a thermal chimney. As warm air from the living space rose, it flowed up this chimney, escaping through vents near the ridge of the roof. This process replaced the need for chimneys, allowing smoke to escape without pulling cold air back into the home. In the dead of winter, a blanket of snow could cover the roof, providing an additional layer of insulation. This natural covering acted as a barrier between the warm air inside the home and the frigid temperatures outside, helping to maintain a more consistent temperature throughout the year. The combination of a steeply pitched roof and a layer of snow created an environment that allowed medieval peasants to survive the harsh winter conditions comfortably. But the real magic happened around the hearth. We're not talking about your traditional fireplace, but rather a central heating system disguised as one. In the heart of every home was a large stone or brick structure called a hearth, which served as a combination heater, stove, and social hub. Hearths were typically built directly onto the floor and extended up the center of the room. The design allowed for multiple activities to take place simultaneously. Cooking could occur over the fire, while the warmth radiated throughout the space, making it inviting and comfortable. To ensure the hearth provided adequate heat, families would frequently use bellows. These devices consisted of a leather bag with a valve mechanism that, when pumped, forced air through a pipe directed towards the fire. By forcing air through the burning materials, the fire burned hotter and gave off more radiant heat, efficiently heating the room. These hearths could maintain temperatures of 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, even during freezing weather, making single-room homes surprisingly warm. As the night grew colder, medieval peasants would retreat to their beds. But these weren't your average sleeping arrangements. Typically, entire families, sometimes comprising 6 or more members, shared a single wooden platform. The platform was raised slightly off the ground and layered with materials such as straw, wool, and various fabrics. But here's the twist. These platforms were angled at a 15-degree slant. This may sound peculiar, but it was actually a clever engineering feat. The angle allowed for the heat generated by the family huddled together to rise and escape, creating a more consistent and warmer sleeping environment. The combination of a layered bed and a slanted platform enabled medieval peasants to stay warm throughout the frigid nights. By strategically rotating who slept where, they ensured that the youngest and oldest members of the family stayed warm and comfortable. Members of the household would carefully shuffle the sleeping arrangements every few minutes, taking turns sliding down the angled platform to the bottom. This way, those who were too young or too old to regulate their own body temperature would always find themselves nestled among the warmest layers of the bed. This communal effort to maintain warmth not only helped them survive the winter, but also strengthened the bonds within the family and the community. It wasn't just their homes that were ingeniously designed. Medieval peasants developed sophisticated systems for storing their food. In the colder months, they relied on root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and beets, as well as apples and other fruits that could withstand freezing temperatures. To store these provisions, they dug pits in the ground and lined them with straw or wood. Then they filled the pits with the food, covered them over, and let Mother Earth do the rest. The earth maintains a fairly consistent temperature throughout the year, providing a stable environment for preserving food. The insulating properties of the soil prevented the food from freezing or spoiling, allowing it to last for extended periods. Some communities took this practice to the next level by constructing underground root cellars. These cellars were specifically designed chambers dug into the hillside that provided an ideal environment for long-term food storage. They often featured thick, insulated walls made of packed earth or stone, which helped maintain a consistent temperature and humidity. The cool, dark environment of these cellars slowed down the decomposition of stored goods, ensuring that vegetables, fruits, and other perishable items lasted throughout the winter and beyond. One study revealed that the depth of the storage pits significantly impacted the temperature of the stored food. Pits deeper than 3 meters maintained a constant temperature of about 4 degrees Celsius regardless of the season, creating the perfect condition for preserving food. And archaeologists have successfully grown crops from potatoes and carrots stored in such pits for over 700 years. Talk about fresh. One of the reasons for the longevity of these vegetables was the hay layer placed on top of the food in the storage pit. The hay acted as an additional layer of insulation, helping to seal in the cold temperatures and prevent warmer air from seeping into the pit. It also absorbed any moisture, creating a more stable environment for long-term food preservation. Additionally, the hay released energy as it decomposed, generating heat that further insulated the food below. Medieval peasants had a knack for timing their meals perfectly. They recognized the importance of aligning their eating schedule with the sun's position and the surrounding temperature. Around 10 a.m. when the sun reached its zenith, they would tackle the most strenuous work of the day. This practice continued until approximately 2 p.m. when the temperature began to drop and the intensity of sunlight diminished. During this period, the villagers would switch to lighter tasks or return home to rest. Communities implemented a system called frost watches, where men took turns staying awake overnight during particularly cold weather to ensure that the fires in the communal ovens and kilns remained lit. If the temperature dropped significantly, the watchmen would sound an alarm, alerting others to take shelter and adjust their sleeping arrangements. To mitigate the risk of hypothermia, some villages developed horn alerts. When the temperature dipped below freezing, a designated individual would blow a horn, signaling the inhabitants to take precautions. Their homes were more than just shelters. They were cleverly designed fortresses against the cold. Every aspect from the placement of windows to the construction of hearths and roofs was a testament to their understanding of heat retention and energy efficiency. By harnessing the power of the sun and earth, and simple materials like straw and wood, medieval peasants not only survived but thrived in some of the harshest winters imaginable. So the next time you shiver through a chilly season, Remember that medieval peasants might have done it in style, comfort, and with a side of hearty stew.